So today our panel consists of three people, myself, Aiyesha, Andrade, and I am a senior analyst within the Operations and Transformations team here at RECCo, and I am responsible for managing the services of the energy theft and metering service providers that assist the REC code manager and industry with their obligations. And I am also the business lead for the Metering Code of Practice Consolidation Review project. We also have Rob Short, who will be your presenter for today, and Rob is a subject matter expert within the Operations and Transformation team here at RECCo and has over 20 years of industry experience. And Rob has been delivering the consolidation activities for the metering project. And last but not least, we have Anne Perry, who is the change delivery manager within the REC code manager, and Anne will be walking you through the change proposal process for the metering project. So the agenda for today . We will start off with a quick poll so we can understand the level of knowledge that we have within the session. Rob will be doing an introduction to the project, walking you through the plan on a page and the metering journey. And then Anne will be walking you through the change proposal process. And we'll go back to Rob, who will be showing a live demo of where the draft documents can be found and the review process for this project. And finally, we will have another poll and any additional questions. So firstly, if we could all fill in the poll, it should pop up on your screens. Okay, so if you could please complete the poll. Okay, so I think a few more people are still responding. But can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we can do.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Sorry. All right, so we've the poll results are in, and we have 71% of attendees who say that they know the review has started, 21% say that they know what the review entails, and 9% know what the review entails and how to provide feedback. But there isn't any attendees who know how it also affects their business. So I'll now hand over to Rob, who will walk you through the introduction to the project.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So as Aiyesha said, we're just going to take you through what's happening in regards to the project, where we are, how we have come about with the project. Hopefully you can all see my screen. I'm going to take that as yes. Okay.
I think it's
Sorry,
off.
Rob, we can't.
Can you not see it? There we go. Let's try again. How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Excellent. Okay. So first of all, I am going to read the first little block that you've got there word for word, because I think the objective is really important that we all understand what we're trying to achieve. So to consider options and recommend how the existing separate metering codes of practice could be consolidated into a single set of arrangements for metering that is simplified, proportionate and relevant, and can be monitored via a single audit scheme. And I think the bit there about it being simplified is one of the key steps that we're trying to achieve within this. The why, well, as many of you will know, that prior to the implementation of REC version 2.0, which gave effect to the retail code consolidation in September last year, Metering activities were covered by 5 separate codes of practice. Now, those 5 separate codes of practice soon then became 4 codes of practice, with AMI-CoP and MAM-CoP being consolidated into the gas metering code of practice, or MCoP. And then we have MoCoP for the electricity code of practice, ASHCoP for the automated meter reading service provider, and then SMICoP for the smart meter installer code of practice. So those now 4 codes of practice were largely transitioned into a REC on an as-is basis. So it was a lift and shift. This is what you still had, and you still had those same terms, those same conditions that you've always had. So what we're trying to look to do is merge those, put them together, consolidate them into one separate code. Now, each of these codes currently has a separate scheme auditor. It has that auditor will award the accreditation to those of you that are meter equipment managers or approved meter installers. But it could actually mean that some of you are having 5 separate accreditations, 5 separate orders each year on a yearly basis or every 3 years. But you're having to duplicate a lot of effort. And again, that's this simplification piece, this way of trying to make it as efficient as possible, bring them together into one code and have one audit. That's what we're trying to achieve. It's also worth noting that the use of the term MEM as well, as part of REC version 2, meter asset managers or MAMs and meter operators, they're now referred to as MEMs, and the approved meter installers, or what was AMIs beforehand, they're now referred to as meter installers. Any questions so far? So I'm more than happy to take questions as we're going along. I'll take that as a no. Okay, so what does success look like? So again, if we want to get those 4 metering codes of practice into one single set of arrangements, one single auditor to be in place to deliver the accreditation, and that to be in place by the 1st of April of next year. Stakeholders to be aware and supportive of the new metering arrangements, hence sessions like this. We're really trying to get out to as many of you as possible to make sure that you're aware of what's happening, how you can include your review comments, and how you can include what your needs are as we go through this. We're looking obviously for the change proposal approval. And then also we want to make sure that the meter arrangements are flexible and they can evolve as the REC develops. I said it was lift and shift when we first took it in. We're now looking to make sure that actually that we're not reinventing the wheel at this stage, but we can evolve the code of practice as we go along. We want to make sure that standards are maintained during and following the transition to the new metering arrangements. This isn't about changing everything now, but we want to make sure that those high standards, that hard work that's been put in over many years to bring MCOPA into MoCoP, or to bring your MAM-CoP into MCoP, we want to make sure that that hard work is still developed, it's still kept, those same rounds of discussions and many hours of work are still there for us. We want to make sure, though, that the big one is the increased consumer confidence in the metering practices. We know that as an energy industry at the moment, reputations aren't as high as they could be. We want to make sure that if we're doing something, we're doing it for the right reasons. We want to make sure that the consumer has confidence that the energy industry is doing what it should be doing. Any questions? No. Okay. So where we are so far, what are we looking to achieve, and how do we achieve this success? So the ambitions are relatively simple in some stage. Is simplify the code, as I mentioned earlier, consolidate the existing codes of practice into a single set of arrangements. By doing that, we automatically remove a lot of duplication. We have a single audit scheme and audit service provider delivering the accreditation. We digitized the scheme arrangements, referencing the previous code sections and the clauses for each ease of tracking. So when we look at the documentation at the moment, you'll see that any changes are referencing the old code, exactly where you would have found them in the old code. but also the digitizing side of things is actually making sure that you as a party, as an individual, can put the type of party that you are. You may be an electricity mem, so in which case you can make sure that you filter down the whole consolidated code of practice to just those clauses that are applicable to yourself. Considering in-flight change proposals, we needed to have a line in the sand as we brought the consolidation together. It's very simple to put things together. However, as things evolve, and if people ask for different things to be added, different wording to be added, it could end up with a lot of scope creep. It could end up to the point where we can't finish. So what we've looked to do is put a line in the sand and just make changes where the actual wording can be changed and tweaked. It doesn't make any, there's no changes in there that are commercially sensitive to any of the parties. We're not fundamentally changing the way that you operate as a business. So anything around, for example, we have made some changes around identification. So the wording, we've tightened up the wording for identification to make sure that it's a clear photograph, to make sure that the identification cards have an expiry date on. That is probably as extreme as the changes have got as we've gone through those. But again, we'll cover some of the examples towards the end of the presentation. Remove unnecessary barriers to innovation. So again, if we can simplify the code, make it as clear as possible, that people understand it, it makes it easier for people to propose changes that could benefit the larger audience. Deliver positive consumer outcomes. Massively important, as I mentioned earlier, and simpler and efficient process. That's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to make this as easy as possible for all parties, rather than having thousands upon thousands of clauses, a number of codes, just one to be able to understand. So the approach to be able to bring this to life, the first and foremost was to understand the key stakeholders and the affected parties. We've had a number of conversations with the metering expert panel. We've had a number of conversations with suppliers. We've had conversations like we're having today with MEMS, with meter installers, and we just want to bring as many people to the party as early as possible whilst we're doing this, and receive those comments to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that you're all happy, really. Agree the terms of references. The terms of reference was agreed over a month ago. It gives us an idea and confirmation of what the product's going to do. And how do individual clauses affect the energy consumer? So each one of these clauses, as I've gone through, has very much been based on what is going to happen to the customer at the end of it, so the consumer at the end of it. The approach then it starts off with the first stage categorization, so based on pre-install, install or on-site activity, and post-installation activity. So very much thinking about that journey as we go along. And again, I'll go into that into a bit more detail in a moment. The second stage categorization is also then based on that metering journey. So starting from a party registering right the way through. We've used the existing MCOP format. So any of you who have looked at MCOP, you will see that you have the clause, you will see that you have a grid table that tells you the affected party, if it's the M, if it's the MEM or the AMI. It will show you the categorization of work, because if it's category 1 or if it's category 4, a high pressure categorization. We've continued to use that MCOP format because it works really well to be able to see that grid and look at those clauses that are affecting the individual parties. As I mentioned, we've reviewed existing in-flight changes and included any in-flight changes where applicable. Recommendations on merging, updating and deletion of existing clauses. Again, you will see that for yourselves in a moment where all those recommendations are, so you can have the opportunity to comment on if I believe that a deletion of a clause is applicable because it's no longer valid, then actually it would be good for yourselves to make those comments and give me that agreement. Peer review with metering experts. So we have had a session with the metering expert panel, but also all the proposed changes have actually been peer reviewed by industry experts as well. So it's not just RECCo or myself making these changes. It's gone through industry experts on top of that. So what's next? We'll continue sharing recommendations and updates with the MEP and the MEMS. We're going to share the plan on the page and the known timescales, and you'll see those for yourselves in a moment. We use the monthly metering expert panel forums to agree the principles and updates. There's an opportunity for the MEP to provide the feedback and also to give us some wider stakeholder engagement. We give the MEP members, the MEMS, the meter installers the ability to provide comments and support the progression of the project. Again, this type of session, but also you will all have opportunity to look at those review comments, for you all to give review comments over the next month. And the stakeholders review the final drafting and provide review comments as well. So there will be opportunity over the next 2 months to make sure that even the scope of the documentation is agreed by all of us. Any questions from anyone so far? Nope. Okay. So what does the plan look like? What does the project plan look like? So the consolidation work has been ongoing since the middle of March. So we've reviewed some 3,000 clauses so far. During the time, reviews have been ongoing with the metering peers, the metering expert panel, as we said. This has now been extended to you guys, the MEMS and the meter installers, and energy suppliers are now in this final draft stage. So we've done what we think is the right thing so far. We just want to make sure that the business users, the affected parties, are also engaged and make sure that they're happy that that is the case. By the middle of July, all review comments and updates need to be finalised in order for the change proposals to progress, and Anne will cover that change proposal in a moment. We will now start to reach out to potential audit service providers and start the RFP process. And continue through July and August, the auditor requirements will be drafted, giving potential service providers more detail on how the Consolidation Code of Practice clauses should be monitored. By the middle of November, the change proposal will be approved. Given review comments between now and the end of June, gives us the opportunity to get the correction and discussion done prior to the change proposal. In essence, we want to avoid any delay during that change assessment period. So we want your comments, as I said, as soon as possible up front, rather than waiting for the change proposal and then having a number of parties make the comments for us to have to work through and have that possibility of delaying the actual change proposal. So the new auditor contract should be in place by January 23. And now the processes, audits and consolidation code in place by the 1st of April 2023. Throughout, stakeholder engagement is consistent. You can see down the bottom of the slide there. We have the MEP sessions, we have the engagement events, we have webinars such as we've got today, and we also have the new gas and electricity operation metering forums as well. So we're trying to reach out to as many people to make sure they're aware of this change proposal. Speaking of change proposal then, if I hand over to Anne for the moment.
Great, thanks, Rob. So change proposal R47. So this has been raised by RECCo, and as Rob has already explained, the change proposal is going to take the output from the consolidation project and progress this through the REC change process, and ultimately implement the changes into the REC and make this part of the BAU activity. From a change proposal perspective, what I provided on the slide there is the timetable. So the change proposal plan of how this will progress through the various stages of the change process. From a governance perspective, the responsible committee for this change proposal is going to be the REC change panel. So the metering expert panel providing guidance, input, and being used as a kind of a group of experts to help to shape as we go through the REC project. However, the change panel is going to be the decision-making forum, and that is mainly because we're going to see the creation of at least one new REC product and the removal of the redundant codes of practices that are going to be removed from the REC as part of the project. So the change panel is the appropriate forum for that level of change within the REC. From a process perspective, the initial assessment report and the change proposal plan, they are actually being presented for approval at the RECCo change panel this afternoon. And the plan sets out the timetable and the activity for the progression of the change process and the change proposal through that process. And as Rob has said, the CP plan ties in very much with the RECCo project activity, and it will take forward the output from the RECCo project, so the defined legal text that will come out of the activity, and that go forward for a standard impact assessment. So this is really an opportunity for you to all assess the impacts that the proposed change will have on your business, and give us that feedback and the opportunity to help to kind of review that legal text in detail, and that we can take forward any comments, any reviews. But ideally, as Rob has said, engagement before we get to the formal activity through the change process would be ideal. But what we've included is impact assessment and consultation through the change proposal plan to give us that opportunity as part of the change proposal activity, as well as this kind of review period now through the RECCo-led activity. We are using our standard 15 working day impact assessment and consultation periods, and that will be before then we will issue the final change report, which will be in November, tying in with the view to get the approval by for the change proposal by November, before it then goes to the change panel on the 15th of November for that final decision. And at that point then the change proposal will then move from the change process through into the release, and then it's all about getting ready for implementation across the RECCo, and obviously getting your organisations ready for the changes that will need to be made to processes and operational activity. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, or kind of Rob, if I hand back to you.
Indeed, thank you very much, Anne. I'm just going to ask Aiyesha or Joey if there's any questions that have come in via the chat so far.
Yes, we have a question. I think Aiyesha shared that with you, Rob.
Okay, I can't see it at the moment, so did someone just want to...
So we have a question in relation to the drafting document, and they said that the CoP pre-installation column C makes reference to various paragraph numbers referred to in MCoP and MoCoP standards. When the document is downloaded, there are no paragraph numbers. The potential upshot is that they could, and forensically are going through the document line by line, which is very time consuming and tiring, as there are no sub-paragraph numbers on the PDF documents. Why is this, and can it be fixed?
So the column C section is the section that's directly taken from EMA. So this relates to the exact clause that is in EMA, and the section that relates to that. So that's the way that getting back to where it was beforehand. The new clause numbers are literally the new clause numbers based on where they should be now. But that bit on section C should always be the correct reference. They certainly should download from the piece that's in the RECCo portal. And I will show you that as part of the demonstration in a moment. I'm not sure if that answers the question for the second, but it might be worth just holding that thought until we do the demonstration at the end, and then maybe we can revisit that and see exactly what you're seeing. Is there anything else in at the moment? I'll tell that as a note. Okay.
There's no other questions.
Lovely. Okay. So we're going to move on really quickly. So we will have that demonstration towards the end, so you can see exactly what can be downloaded, exactly what you can see. Okay, so the metering journey itself, I did mention that as we started. So the metering journey, we're looking to put into the pre-installation, installation and post-installation activity. There will be some document governance, obviously, at the end of the document that will include your your scopes, or at the beginning of the document for your scopes, and at the end for the appendix as well. But the sections that you're interested in are very much pre-install, installation activity and post-installation. The 22 steps that we have there takes us through, as I said, from the party registering for the first time, making sure employees are trained and qualified, through the on-site safety checks, the installation activities, the customer engagement, industry notification and ongoing maintenance. So each of those 22 steps has been or is due to be reviewed by the metering expert panel, and will also, again, just to reiterate, you will also have the opportunity to review all those comments as well. So each one of those, if I take pre-installation, for example, so these are the main sections of pre-installation that we just mentioned, part of those 22 steps. Each of them does have subsections. I'm not going to go through each of those subsections, but this document really does give you, and this slide deck will be shared, does give you just a little bit of a reference point of where you may find a certain clause that you are looking for as a quick guide. Again, it will be digitalized. It will make life easier when it's on email, and you'll be able to search for what you're looking for. But as you can see, each one of them then does have a subsection that includes all those clauses for those subsections, right the way through for pre-installation. On the installation one, just for review purposes, installation was then split into two sections, so a part 1 and a part 2. And the reason for that is to go through, and just by clicking the buttons, you can see the number of clauses that are on your on-site activity. And as you expect, a lot of things happen whilst you're on site. A lot of things should happen whilst you're on site. So part 1 and part 2 have been or installation has been split to part 1 and part 2. So when it comes to the review, you will have your pre-installation and your installation part 1 as one section, and then you will have your installation part 2 and post-installation as the second section. So again, into post-installation, these are all the sections that are included into there. A lot of information, a lot of clauses around the audit and survey side of things. To be expected, SMI-CoP covers a lot of audit and survey side of things. A lot around industry notification, and if you've done an exchange, if you've done any sort of metering work, there are data flows, etc., to be sent. So that all needs to be included within that. And then also within your equipment transfer and returns and disposals. So anything around getting those meters back to where they belong, or disposing of any batteries, etc., takes up quite a large section of post installation. Okay, any further questions come in so far?
No, there's no questions.
Excellent. Okay, so the document itself. So we've mentioned many times so far around the review period. Really, again, just need to reiterate, we want your support in order to go through this as soon as possible. Those two sections that I talked about, so your pre-installation and your installation part 1, the document is available now. Up until the 21st of June, we are looking for your comments. You're looking for your review comments, looking for you to go onto the RECCo portal. We're looking for you to download a copy of that document, put your review comments in, and then send it back to myself at robert.short@retailenergyco.co.uk. Again, that will be on the slide deck. You'll be able to see that. But we're looking for your comments to make sure that you are all in agreement. This affects your business by making sure that these audits are doing things that you do day in, day out, making sure that you have the evidence that you're doing these. So we don't want to change any clauses and bring anything new to your business that's going to, in essence, cost you money, cost you time, cost you effort. So we want you to review those comments and make sure that you are comfortable with them. The second half of the audit process, so your installation part 2, as well as your post installation, they will be available on the RECCo portal from today or tomorrow, and they will then be available for review up until the end of the month, so the 30th of June. So it gives you a good few weeks to go through them. Now, there isn't a number of clauses. There is quite a bit of reading to do. However, again, as I go through this, there is a lot that hasn't changed at all. So if it hasn't changed, it may be that you don't need to even review it. I'll leave that up to yourself of how involved into your reviews that you want to do, but there's certainly clauses that have been amended. There's clauses that have been removed. For me, they're the ones that you really might want to concentrate on and make sure there is nothing that's going to impact your business or change anything fundamentally. So where to find the details? So if you go to retailenergycode.co.uk, once you're into that, at the top you will see Rec Portal. If you click on that, on the left hand side you will see committees. On the right hand side, then after you've done that, you will see Metering Expert Panel. And then once you click on that Metering Expert Panel, it is going to ask you to log in. So you will need to register for the site if you've never done that before. It's very simple, email address, password. So there's no issues with you not having access. You will be granted access. So once you've clicked on that Metering Expert Panel, you'll see here the meeting documents at the top, and then the consolidation project documents further down. Clicking on that, you will have this stage 1 comments by the 21st of June. This is the first half that I mentioned earlier. As of tomorrow, at the latest, there will be a second folder just underneath with stage 2. If you click into stage 1, you will see 2 downloadable files. So you will have installation part 1 final draft, and you will have pre-installation final draft. I will show you what that looks like in real life. So I realised that we've just done a quick tour of that one. So I'm just going to load up a internet site in front of me.
Rob, whilst you're doing that, there's another question that's come in.
Okay.
So we've got a question that says, what will happen if your party is not eligible for the whole of part 1 or 2? For example, Eon Next is a supplier, so will need to be audited for part 1, pre-install communications only. Eon UK Solutions, MEM, won't be doing the pre-installations comms. However, they will need to do the back-end work.
I think what we're just about to do will probably answer that really well, to be honest, because it will show how we've broken down each one of the clauses depending on the party. So if you're a MEM, if you're a meter installer, if you're an energy supplier, so it's probably worth me covering that as I do the demonstration. Okay, can we see my screen again? And say yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I said straight into retailenergycode.co.uk, click on the Rec Portal, committees down the left hand side. It will ask you for a password. Just sign into that after you've registered. Right hand side, Metering Expert Panel, meeting documents, and then you'll see lots of documentation that's happened beforehand. So you've got the Metering Consolidation project, and then you have your stage 1, and as I said, stage 2 will follow very soon. Clicking on stage 1, it will give you a couple of Excel files, one for the pre-installation, one for the post-installation. So clicking on the pre-installation or either one, you can then download it. It's there available for you to have, and it looks like this. So again, hopefully you can all see an Excel sheet. So there's been a couple of questions so far. I think the latest one is probably the first one to cover very, very quickly. So you will see here that each of these sections have an amended, removed, or no change. But the bit that probably covers that last question is these are the parties that for each and every single clause do you need to cover it or not. So it's not you need to cover the whole of pre-installation. It's not you need to cover the whole of installation. It is done by individual clauses. So, for example, can I zoom in? Is that let's come in a little bit? Hopefully, yeah. Here we go. Is that any better? Hopefully. So you can see there these ticks at the top. And so you're literally saying that actually, as for example, an energy supplier, I would have to cover this clause, but actually on the next one down, as an energy supplier, I don't. And as part of that digitalization, you'll be able to put in what sort of party you are, and it will give you the clauses that are applicable to yourself. So it's it's not, here's lots of information that you no longer need. Hopefully that covers that question. I think that the upshot is it's by individual clause, not by section. Okay, I just want to go back to the first question, just to see the references used are from EMAR or not on the PDF. I keep only seeing a
sorry. So Nick sent a screenshot of the rec portal area where you can download the codes of practice as a PDF version. But the references that you've used within the drafting is from EMAR and not from the PDF version. Okay. So we could make the direct links to the clauses.
That's okay. I understand now. Sorry, apologies. So yes, they are the EMAR references that actually quite often don't quite tie in to what the actual reference is. In fact, I think from memory, they're usually one number behind quite often. But what will happen once we actually do the upload to EMAR, there will be an automatic link. So using the section number that we've got from EMAR reference, it will still reference the previous section. So there'll still be that round robin of being able to know what was there previously compared to what is there now, and making sure that they do link up. So for example, here, if we look at this one here, there will be a reference that says the EMAR reference at 2.31. We will have something that says, for example, that may have been MoCoP clause 2.32, which is the way it normally works out, and the new clause is now 514. So that will be part of the digitalization piece. I didn't cover every single section within that, but for ease, it was easier to do the digital reference number. Does that make sense? I hope that Nick has got that covered.
Yeah, if not Nick, then we'll share our email addresses with you and we can pick this up afterwards if you want to discuss further.
Okay, I'm going to move on for a little bit. So these are the documents that we want you to review, and to do that, there is a commentary bit at the end. You can't change anything on any of these bits. If you wanted to delete them, etc., it will not let you, but it will give you the opportunity to upload your comments into the comment section when you enable the editing or when you download it. If you've got no comments in any of those, just write no comments. That would be really helpful. But what we're looking for you to do is confirm each of the clauses associated are in the correct sections. Firstly, there is a little bit of flexibility within those sections. As you all know, any of you that have read any documentation before, there's always a clause that doesn't quite fit in the right place and it's shoehorned a little bit. There is a couple of those in here. That doesn't change. It's just trying to find the best place for it to go. But if there's anything fundamentally you read a clause and you think, why is that in pre-installation when we always do that at the end of the journey? That's the sort of thing that it'd be fantastic for you to comment on. We'd like you to review each update comment that you'll see in the end section here. So anything in the section Q. Again, just checking if we've said that we're amending it, that you agree with the reason that we've amended it. If we've removed the comment, you certainly want to make sure that that isn't something that is really important. However, most of the removals are a byproduct of clauses that have been amended. So, for example, if we look at this clause here, just the first one that I look at under qualifications and training. So the MEM and the AMI should operate a suitable employee and contractor vetting procedure, ensure that the persons attending site are fit and proper persons within the meaning of the standard condition of the Electricity and Gas Markets Authority gas suppliers license. So what we've then done is actually that clause has been duplicated a number of times under MCoP, under MoCoP. It's something that is a fundamental, you'd expect every single party to make sure that they're vetting their staff and making sure that they've got the fit and proper people in to do the work. So what we've done there is just said, actually, beforehand, this was just a clause under MCoP, so it was purely just for gas and covered different categories. We said, actually, extend it to all. Everybody should be doing contractor vetting procedure. Extend it to all, and then that gives the ability to remove 3 clauses from 3 other codes of practice, and therefore that's your consolidation piece. It's a very simple way of doing it. And then as a party, you'll be able to come in, as I said, and just go, okay, I am a gas and electricity mem, and it will then show you, you'll definitely need to cover this as a gas and electricity mem based on the ticks that would be in that box. Things that haven't changed. So these ones here that you've got a no change, these are exactly the same as they always were before. So where you have a MOCOP clause just there, it's something that it relates purely to the electricity industry. It purely relates to MEMS, DNOs and meter operators. So therefore you can't extend it. There's no change to it, but it still needs to be there. And so these are the ones that I said to you beforehand. If you don't want to review everything, you could look at the ones that are no change, and you could just skip those and just look at the amended and removed ones. If you wanted a time-saving exercise, if you didn't want to go through each and every single one of the clauses. Also, what they ask is to look at any of the additional comments in column R. Most of these are just an explanation of why we have amended the clause. So, for example, this one has been extended to gas and electricity, so therefore the red clauses, the red ticks are the ones that are new, the black ones were ones that were existing, and it just gives you the reason why something has been amended or removed or changed. But again, just want to make sure that you're happy, especially if I said extended to all, because it does mean that that is probably a new activity for that party that maybe didn't have to do it before. But again, these are what I would call probably hygiene factors. They're probably something that doesn't change your business as such. It's something you're already doing, but you probably should be showing the evidence under that one section rather than doing it for MOCOP, for example, and not doing it for MCOP. A really good example of that is probably data protection. There's clauses that talk about data protection and having a policy around data protection under MCOP. There isn't one under SMICOP. So actually it makes sense that everyone should be able to show a data protection policy as evidence. You all have them, so therefore it's a nice easy clause that says, well, everyone should be able to show that evidence, so extend it to all rather than just having certain individuals having to show that. It's something that we all have to do anyway, and that's the sort of thing that I've said extended to everybody. So it's not fundamentally changing your business, it's just confirming things that you should already be doing. If there is any rewording of the clauses, then please put those in your commentary with any suggestions. Obviously, sometimes you can't see the wood through the trees. As I've read many of these clauses, it would be really good if there is some wording or better wording that we can propose. Again, put those on your review comments and have those come back. And then just, I think it's just worth noting, as I said, you can put your review comments at the end of this column S for each of the individual clauses. These individual ones under these tabs at the bottom here are the ones that have the strike through activity. So where the wording has been changed, you can see the previous wording. So I'm just going to find one that's got a strike through. There we go, just one at the top. So a simple one where the MEM and AMI has been changed. So it then reads the signatories because it's now covering all parties. So this will show you the markup within that. And then on the left hand side, you will, for each of the documents, you will see the full section. So this is it with all the changes that have been updated. This is what we believe is the final version. So you can see it either with markup in the individual tabs, or you can go through it as the final product to make sure you're happy. As you can see, there's lots of red ticks where we've merged the clause and extending it to all parties to tidy it up as best as possible. And again, you can put your comments into there should you prefer to do it on the final version rather than the markup version. Each their own. I don't mind either way. So I said the amended and removed clauses are critical for review. They're the ones that I really would be concentrating on. Also, the ones with the red ticks, be concentrating on those to make sure that you're happy with doing something that you may not have had to do beforehand. And again, to reiterate, we are looking for review comments to be returned by the 21st of June for pre-installation and installation part 1, and by the 30th of June for installation part 2 and post-installation. Is there any questions?
There's a follow-up question from Nick. Would you like for the comments to include the basic typos that may be in there as well, such as, I don't know, spelling mistakes and single line spacing and things like that? Or do you just want to keep it to the
If you see them go along, yeah, please let me know. There has been an attempt at spell check, but it's in an Excel format, and we all know that spell check doesn't work quite as well in an Excel format. It will obviously be checked for spelling, etc., as it goes through its final piece. So if there is anything that I've missed, then yes, absolutely, please put those in your review comments. I'm more than happy to change them as I go along.
There's nothing else in the chat box.
Okay. In which case, then we will move on. Let's go back to the slide deck. Okay, we go to the second poll.
So we have 3 questions in the next section. So I will, if you could please complete those, that would be great. Were there any other further questions within the chat? Is everybody aware of the next steps? It's all very quiet. Okay, I think that's it.
Excellent. So in which case, as I said, if you do have any further questions, then please contact, my details are on the slide deck. We will send the slide deck out as well. If you do think of anything, especially as you're going through the reviews that you're likely to be doing. So email addresses are there. I think maybe a question just came in. Can you see that one, Aiyesha? Can't quite see it now.
Okay, so can the audit regime be adjusted so it is proportionate to the extent that metering activity is being carried out? For example, where a MEM is in process of exiting the market and is no longer carrying out any meter works, but still has a legacy portfolio of meters that are in the process of being disposed of or replaced by another MEM. So at the moment, we haven't, we aren't looking to change the audit regime, but it's definitely something that is being considered as to how we can best put something in place that will be more reflective of current activities. So we'll definitely take that note on board, and allow that to feed into the rest of the activities that are ongoing with the project. Have we got representatives of the audit companies? As when we wrote CoP, it would have been useful. We've been having discussions with the audit representatives as well, and they have received the instructions as well as to how to make comments. So yes, we've been in discussions with them also. And the slide deck will be circulated. I'm hoping by the end of the day we should be able to get the slide deck and the recording out to you. Do we have anything else? Will the frequency of audits remain the same? Yes, so at the moment we haven't determined what exactly that will look like. We need for the consolidation activities to be completed first, and then we'll be looking into how often the audit should take place. But obviously we want it to be reflective of the consolidation activities. Please feel free to put your hand up and do you have any more questions? No? Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. If you do have any further questions, Nick, will it be the same auditors as previously for? I'm sorry, Nick, I'm unsure of what that is. MELEC. I may have to take that one away and get an answer for that. Will it be the same? We're unsure. So as Rob showed within the plan on a page, there is going to be a procurement activity for an audit provider. So we're unsure of who the auditor will be at this stage. Any other questions? Okay. Well, as Rob's details are on the screen there, I'll also put mine in the chat. So if you do have any further questions that may come to mind after this session, please feel free to drop us an email, and we will distribute the slides and the recording hopefully by the end of today. Thank you very much.